My name is Brad Behrens. I am the Chief Content Officer for DMG Events. I'm also an editor-at-large for iMedia Connection. It is my great pleasure to be here with my friend and a man I greatly admire, Bob Garfield. And Bob is ordinarily the interviewer, whether it's on the media or Ad Age or even here at iMedia Connection. So this time I wanted to take the opportunity to turn the tables on a man who's been working in our industry for how many years? For a lot of years. Let's just say a few.
Jurassic period.
Jurassic, really? Okay,
yeah.
So basically there's Bob's DNA frozen
Most
in
of it,
amber somewhere.
Can I just say
Yes.
Cretaceous?
We first had you at iMedia when you did the Chaos scenario as an article, which later turned into a wonderful book. Tell me what you're working on right now.
As you know, Brad, I've got like 11 jobs, right? So I still write for Ad Age. I have on the media on NPR, a weekly show. And I have a very small consulting practice for the limited number of people who I can work for that present no conflict of interest to my other journalistic activities.
Both of them?
Yeah, both of them. Yeah, exactly. I am writing a book. I'm co-writing a book with Doug Levy, who is
of IMC Squared.
Of IMC Squared, who IMC Squared, I believe, has some sort of iMedia connection. One of their principals is on your advisory board. And
so IMC Squared is an Austin-based agency, or is it Dallas?
Dallas-based, right.
And Ian Wolfman and Doug Levy of the company have both been strong allies of ours in helping to move the agency and the industry forward. And they talk a great deal about the birth of relationship marketing, which is how I think they came to know you.
Exactly. In fact, if I can just not answer your first question by telling you the story. I met them at an iMedia event in Las Vegas.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah. So I was at an iMedia event as a speaker or something. I don't know what I was doing there.
We roped you into something.
Yeah, something.
So.
And I went out one evening and I was overserved, right? And I got back to my hotel room around 6 in the morning, Las Vegas. And at 7 in the morning, I got a phone call from Ian Wolfman, who I knew not from Adam. And he said, listen, my partner, Doug Levy, is speaking at 8, and you really should see this. And, who knows? Is there a God? I got up out of bed and went to see this total stranger to talk. And there were two things that really struck me. One, that he had the most wrinkled suit I've ever seen.
It was truly an astonishingly wrinkled suit.
In all of human history, never has a suit been so wrinkled. And the second thing was, what he was telling the audience at iMedia conformed entirely, a total Venn diagram overlap with my theories of listenomics, which I had floated in my various articles in my book, The Chaos Scenario. So, like, whoa. And what they didn't know, but what I did, was that I was already at that point thinking of leaving Advertising Age, where I'd been a critic of TV advertising for 25 years.
So tell us about the new book. What's the title? Do you have a title for the new book?
Okay, yeah. So long story short, I forged this relationship with them. And as part of this ongoing relationship with this agency from Dallas, I am co-writing a book with Doug Levy titled The Human Element. It's all about, okay, if you will finally concede that my chaos scenario has come to pass, and that the world of mass media is giving way to the world of micromedia, and that digital does not even in and of itself present a business model that can sustain either publishers or advertisers, that social is somehow the answer. The Human Element supposes that there is an answer, that we have cracked the code. And we're going to explain, literally point by point, how a marketer can, in this environment, not only achieve the scale that was achievable in the old mass era, but actually do better than that.
So you've kind of anticipated my next question, but I'm going to ask it anyway, which is, I call this the joy and the oi. And by the way, for those of you who care, Bob didn't realize that I was Jewish for the first 5 years that we knew each other. So
Well, that's because of how you pronounce oi.
Oi, oi. All right.
You
Fair
pronounce
enough.
it like a Gentile.
Well,
You're a Shonda.
I married one, but you know,
Okay.
there we go.
Yeah, there you
This
go.
will probably be an edit point. My question to you is,
In which case, what you just said is irrelevant.
absolutely. So looking forward, over the course of the next 12 months, based on what you know about traditional advertising, what you've been delving into for the last 5 years with digital advertising, what's the greatest opportunity for marketers and agencies? What's the greatest obstacle for marketers and agencies that we're looking at? And I don't necessarily even mean consumer behavior. A lot of the time it might be the way that a marketing department is structured. But what do you see as the thing that's most hopeful for this industry and really most depressing?
All right, so let me answer your simple question by giving you 3 separate answers, okay?
Okay.
3 discrete answers. To your direct question, what do I envision for fourth quarter 2012? I envision fourth quarter 2004. There is still enough life left in the old mass media model, and there is so much impetus for marketers and others to squeeze the last toothpaste out of the mass media tube,
Okay.
to continue with approximately with the status quo, with the understanding that it's entirely unsustainable, but to continue to depend on mass while mass still exists. So I really don't see a particularly different environment a year from today than we're experiencing today. Okay, that's one thing. The second thing is our lives are being increasingly lived on mobile, and mobile is where the play is, mobile is where the audience is, mobile is where all of our communities are, and in theory at least, mobile is where marketing should exist, and that's where everybody is heading, except for the fact that when you're on mobile communicating with the people you care about, it better be a very, very, very relevant message
Sure.
that you're getting to make you want to drop what you're doing with something you genuinely care about.
To engage with a
To
brand.
not only engage with the brand, but to expand your limited battery life to do so. I mean, battery life to me is a huge, huge obstacle to the development of the mobile marketing world, because it's so precious. It's life itself, and when my battery dies, I can communicate with nobody, and I sure don't want some third-party marketer chewing it up. So
it's sort of like back in the day when we had junk fax, and you'd come back to your office in the morning, and somebody who you didn't know and you didn't care about had spent lots of your money on ink and paper without your permission.
it's exactly like that, except that you can always reload the fax machine, and you can't always reload the battery. And some of this will be dealt with by physics, right? Battery life will improve, and oh gosh, I'm losing a word. Compression will diminish the amount of battery life that you have to expend for any given signal, right? But nonetheless, I don't want to be bothered in general, and I especially don't want to be bothered if it's going to chew up the thing that is most precious to me.
Which is your time.
My time and my battery life.
Right.
So, that said, I still live on my phone, and my children live even more of their lives on my phone. So that's
So
where
what kind of
the play
phone do you
is.
have?
Well, I have a phone that I wish I could convert to a ball-peen hammer. I have a Motorola brand Android, and I hate it more than I hate Satan.
And what do your kids have?
My kids have iPhones, and I want an iPhone, 4S.
Well, the 5 is coming soon, so if you can just hold out.
That's another problem.
So.
I can't stay ahead of technology. But to answer your ultimate question, right? What happens next? I think that advertising, and you know this, you knew before you asked the question, I think advertising supported media is not a growth industry. I think it will continue to wane for reasons of supply and demand, for low CPMs, for legislation and regulation that will make it harder and harder to target. I can envision a future where location is legislated against because it creates such privacy and security dangers.
Mm-hmm.
So the very things that make online advertising so valuable could be zeroed out by legislation and regulation.
Well, we had the FTC chair, John Lebowitz, at AdTech Inspire just today. And if you want to see what he had to say, it's www.adtech.com/live. And the FTC is very pro-industry self-regulation on the understanding that the industry wakes up and starts taking consumer privacy seriously, about which I have some doubts.
You know, I have to disagree slightly. They take it very seriously, not only because they care about individuals' privacy, but because they understand that to not take it seriously is to let legislation or regulation kill the goose that lays the golden egg. Golden age. I said age.
The golden age. I like that.
Golden egg.
Okay.
And
high cholesterol.
I have a great, cute kid story to tell you about that. And so Randy Rothenberg and the IAB, I mean, they so get that this has to be dealt with, but their efforts so far have just had no impact. They talk about the hundreds of millions of impressions. Hundreds of millions sounds like a big number, but it's infinitesimal.
Impressions and attention are not the same thing.
They are not, and much less action. Much less action, and very, very, very few people are availing themselves of the opportunity to opt out because they don't see it, they don't register it, they certainly don't act on it. And until the government, whether the FTC or the FCC or the Congress, believes that consumers get that they have an opportunity not to be tracked online and not to be tracked in the physical world, what the industry has done so far matters not one whit, and something has to change, and it could all go away. At which point, social becomes the entire game.
That's interesting.
It becomes the entire play, and I believe if that happens, that turns out to be good for everybody. But it's going to be a lot. There'll be a lot of blood.
Yeah, it's good for everybody, but it's a really painful birth to get there.
It's very well. First of all, it kills publishers and broadcasters.
Yeah,
kills them, and it's hard for marketers to even begin to grasp how they can get scale. But scale is achievable, and when I say that, you have to understand that I have a conflict of interest in that, because my book will say that scale, approximating mass media, is achievable in a social world.
How is that a conflict?
Because
I don't see the conflict.
Because every book I sell makes money for me to buy stuff.
I see. Okay.
And I like buying stuff.
That's a fairly trivial conflict of interest. So let me ask you, right now the latest issue of Fast Company is about the great tech wars of this year and next year, and it lists Amazon, Apple, Google, and Facebook as the four big companies, whereas 5 years ago it would have been Microsoft, Yahoo, and AOL. So of those four, this is the last question, Amazon, Apple, Facebook, and Google, who do you think has the greatest No, not who wins. Who's most vulnerable to being disrupted by two guys in a garage somewhere?
Oh, okay. Google's most vulnerable.
Why is that?
Because their entire business is based on the data that they collect in search and their various other platforms, and data could be legislated out of the world, out of existence
by the FTC, by the BBB.
Yeah. Facebook is in a similar situation. The difference between Facebook and Google is Google already makes billions and billions of dollars in the search business. Facebook makes a limited amount of money, and most of it is based on their Zynga credits. So Facebook is betting very much on the come. By the way, Fortune also has a story in their current issue. Who wins, Facebook or Google? I think Amazon wins.
Really?
Yeah, I think Amazon is the big commerce and social media play.
And you think that
I wrote that, by the way, about 9 months ago in an obscure little magazine called the IEE Spectrum, International something electrical engineering. They have a very good magazine, and I already placed my bet.
You know, I hang on your every word, but I have to actually find the words in order to hang on them. So what do you think of the Kindle Fire? We'll make that an extra question.
It's a disruptor.
So.
I don't know who wins in tablets. All I know is I'm afraid to buy a tablet because I just know that whatever I buy will immediately be rendered irrelevant about 5 minutes later by the next generation.
But that's like driving a car off the showroom floor. You know, it's obsolete and it loses $10,000 the moment you leave. Here's my prediction, and it's a long-term prediction, so I'm curious if you think I'm full of it or not. I think that we're looking at, ultimately, display devices. And actually, I have a novel that I wrote about this in the novel. I think we're talking about display devices that are going to be on our glasses, on our contact lenses. I think that the tablet is a transitional device away from the laptop, away from the desktop, and then ultimately what we're going to do is we're going to have display get closer and closer. It's moved from the PC to the handset to the tablet, and eventually it's going to stick over our eyes, and we're going to be looking through an interactive layer.
Philip R. Dick, I thought you were dead. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Thank you so much.